Hey, what's going on, guys? So I have a little bit of a different video for you guys today. I have actually been thinking recently, I have quite a game room, and I've been thinking about the old games I have, and really, is it worth keeping them around, hanging on to them, and do I even play them? So without further ado, let's just kind of jump into, the state of playing your retro games in 2024. So the reason that this whole thing came up, or at least got me thinking about it, was, I have a pretty, in my opinion, dope game room. I've been collecting games for a long time now, and most of which came from like yard sales and stuff. But some of them are from my childhood, and it's just something that I've built a game room around. A lot of my friends have game rooms. I'm sure a lot of you guys have game rooms, or at least a game corner or a nook or something where you keep track of some of your favorite games from when you were a kid. But one thing is, like, do you really end up playing these games, or do they just sit on the shelf and become shelf dust? Or are these games even worth playing today? A lot of games today are very, very good, right? We get cutting edge stuff all the time. I just played the Final Fantasy VII remake recently, the PS5 version, going into Rebirth. It's like, holy crap, like this is amazing compared to the original. And so it got me kind of thinking, like, gosh, what about the original Final Fantasy VII? Granted, graphically it doesn't look so good, but it's very nostalgic. But like, if you didn't have that, is that something that would entice you? When it comes to older games, they kind of can be lumped into different categories, right? Because there's some stuff that looks timeless, plays timeless, is classic. And there's some stuff that maybe didn't age so well, but maybe you still hold on to it because in your mind, right, it has that like nostalgia, it has those emotions to it. But is it worth going back to? I keep asking myself this: am I going to go back and play blank? I really loved the Beavis and Butthead game on Super Nintendo. It was like a co-op game, but will I ever go back and play that again? I don't know. Maybe not. It's a crazy question, right? So, think about all the stuff you need for older games, right? All the weird controllers, all the weird peripherals, light guns, joysticks. Some of that stuff, Mario Paint needed a mouse, like some of that stuff, are you really gonna bust everything out? Are you really going to do that? And I started thinking, when do I have friends come over or whatever, and we're playing the older games? Everyone's playing newer games because it's easier. Like I have friends that are from out of town, and we can jump on and play Halo Infinite together because you can jump on an Xbox party and play it. I can jump on the PlayStation and, join a party with people, and we're all playing, the new Final Fantasy, and we're talking while we're playing or whatever. But when do we play the older stuff? And I'm racking my brain as to like the most recent events and what I would classify and what I would do. And the first thing that jumps out in my mind is, I have all my neighbors are really cool, and one of my neighbors has a young kid, and he came over once. He's maybe 6, and we dusted off some of the old games just to show him, like, oh man, here's what it's like back in the day. But the thing is nowadays with younger kids, they're so used to, like, pick it up, put it down. Everything's real quick. When I was growing up, you bought a game, and if it sucked, or if it was awesome, or it doesn't matter, that's what you had. That's what you played, and that's what you're stuck with. You can't beat it because it's too hard. Too bad. You're playing that first level over and over and over again. So when he was over, we were playing old games, and it was really fun, really cool, had a great time. But, you'd play a game for like 5 seconds. You'd pop in Duck Hunt and go through one level, and it's like, okay, well, this dog's a jerk, so so we're done with this. And we would go on to the next thing. Granted, once in a while we hit some gold. We did play all the way through the Power Rangers game, which was really fun. But once again, that was like 45 minutes. Like when I was growing up and I had that game brand new, it's like you played that game over and over and over again because it was one of the 5 games you had. So, I played the Power Rangers game with him, right? Am I ever going to play that game again? I have no idea. I don't know. And then you start thinking of, like, graphically, like there's that period when we transition to 3D, and there's some stuff that just doesn't look good. And nowadays a lot of games are getting HD remakes, right? So let's say like I don't know, Mario 64. The Mario 64, it's not an HD remake, but they have like the kind of upscaled, nicer version for the Switch. Like, are you gonna go back and play the original with a Nintendo 64 controller now that you have a better version with a better camera and better, this, that, and the other? I mean, maybe you're really used to the Nintendo 64 joystick, and maybe that would be your driving factor in the choice. But, it's one of those things where, are you really gonna do that? Are you really gonna go back and play, Mario Kart 64, one of my favorite games, right? Would you play that when you have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe with every course under the sun? Would you go back and play the original Super Smash Bros. When you have Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which is literally just that game plus a million characters and maps and every character ever in existence? There's a case to be made for games where like future iterations aren't as good or maybe are missing something. But there's a lot of cases where really good games from back in the day, they either have an HD remake or a remaster that's just better. I mean, I played the Dead Space remake last year, and I won't play the original one again, because why? The Dead Space remake is literally the original one, but better. Better graphics, better controls, better plot stuff. I mean, it was just the better game. So I found myself in this kind of black hole of like, man, am I gonna play some of these games? What am I gonna do? And then, like I said, I had a friend visit, and we decided to play some old games. Specifically, we decided to play Zelda 64. We played it on the Switch, on the online service. And I'm gonna start this out with, this kind of answered my question. So the last time I played Zelda 64 was the 3DS remake, and it looks beautiful, looks amazing. And to this day, and I will still stand by this, I think they should port that game to the Switch, because it just looks a little bit cleaner, it's smoother, it's, it just looks better, and it is great. But now we're playing the N64 version via the online service, and I'm using the Nintendo Switch Pro controller, and it's just not right. It wasn't right. And I was like, this isn't feeling good. The other joystick uses the C buttons, or some of the face buttons use them. But then I remembered I had the Nintendo 64 Switch controller, the one that you could order through their website. So we decided to get this, and I'm not gonna lie, I have not used a Nintendo 64 controller in quite a while. And getting this controller, at first it felt awkward. I'm not gonna lie, it felt awkward, which is weird for me, right? Because I grew up with a Nintendo 64, that was my console. And I was like, why does this feel weird? Like, I grew up with this. I'm so used to modern day controllers that I just wasn't used to that. But once I got got back into the swing of it, it was awesome, right? Another thing that kind of sucked, and you still can't change it on this version, is you couldn't switch inverted to non-inverted. And that, even up until the end of the game, was hard for both me and my friend, because it was like, you're so used to down is up and up is down, or down is down and up is up, we couldn't flip-flop, and we were both used to the opposite. But that's what kind of leads me to my culminating point, though, is, as I just said 3-4 sentences ago, up until the end, we beat it. We sat down, and over the course of 3 days, took turns, beat Ocarina of Time all the way through, all the dungeons, all the everything, and it was freaking awesome. And that, to me, for myself, answered the question that, for me personally, old games are still worth replaying. Like I said in the beginning, there's some games that I'll probably never touch again, that will forever sit on my shelf as a nostalgic piece, or maybe one day I'll have a friend over and we'll throw in, Buck Bumble just for the theme song. But to me, playing Zelda Ocarina of Time again, it was like, man, this was it. This was cool as hell. I had such a good time. And, then it got me thinking about other, kind of timeless games that, you can't really get otherwise. The PlayStation 1 has so many RPGs, and a lot of them are sprite-based, so they not only play good, and you can't play them anywhere else, but they aged phenomenally, because sprites you can't really screw up. And until we finally do get the Jet Set Radio Future remake or whatever, the original one looks great. Being cel shaded graphics, it looks good. So that is kind of what I'm getting at here. It was a journey for me over the last little bit to think and stop and realize, am I gonna play some of these games? And like I kind of said, yes, there's gonna be some stuff that'll probably forever sit on my shelf, never to be played again. But I think, on the whole, I do wholeheartedly believe that old games are worth playing, and I think they're worth playing on original hardware. And I'm glad that I did not have a room that I've dedicated to these old games that goes unused. But let me know what you guys think down below. I know it's kind of a weird subject because so many people are shelf collectors, or so many people have stuff and they're just never going to play it again because, you know, you got the new PS5, you got the new Xbox Series X, you got the Nintendo Switch. Like, why would you, you know, yeah, you have your cool copy of, you know, whatever, Kirby's Dream Course, but like you're never gonna go back to it because, you know, why would you want to dust off the Super Nintendo? But I want to know who all out there besides me does dust off their stuff and does play it. I'd be really interested to know in the comments down below. Hey, and that's gonna do it for us today, guys. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing. If you haven't, please do. That would be phenomenal. But as always, my friends, take it easy.